I hope you don't get the sickness.
My boy Kurt is a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beast dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay-at-home Disney dad.
So, if you've watched the last 39 episodes, you have heard me reference and compare things to Penny in a Bucket and how the rescuers left permanent scars on my childhood. Today's the day. Let's begin. So I am right at the cutoff to be Gen X. I'm practically half millennial, but technically I'm Gen X. And being Gen X, I had a much different childhood than you did, than the millennials did, and whatever came after them. As Gen X kids, no one entertained us. Now imagine a world where adults would get together and tell the kids to go play while they smoked Marlboros and ignored us for hours. That's just the way it was. That was the relationship. No one made sure you had something to do. It was up to you to find something to do, and slouching back to the adults, complaining you were bored was not an option. Not an option at all. If there were other kids around, you had complete freedom to wander the streets or do whatever you wanted in the other rooms or the basement, and as long as no one started crying or no one started screaming, it would be hours before the adults checked on you. If the adults got together and no other kids were around, it was time to get creative and amuse yourself. Remember when coronavirus lockdown began and there were all those memes about how Gen X has been preparing for isolation their entire lives? It's true. As a kid, I played board games by myself for hours, for days. Remember, no cell phones, no laptops, no tablets. In the 80s, there was usually one TV in the living room where the adults congregated, and that was off limits. Sorry if I'm painting a bleak picture of my childhood, but that's just the way it is. We didn't have parents making sure we were mentally and socially stimulated, and we didn't know any different. It was normal. I'm telling you that to tell you this. One time at my cousin's house, I would think I was 4, maybe 5. All the adults sat the kids downstairs while they smoked Marlboros and watched TV. Downstairs, all the cousins went. I was one of the littlest ones, and I couldn't play whatever board game they were playing, probably Monopoly or Ouija, and yes, many times we played Ouija for hours. Again, no one checked on us. Anyways, my older cousin sat me down in front of the basement TV and stuffed this VHS tape into the VCR and told me to watch. 74 minutes later, I emerged from that basement a different kid. I was terrified something would happen to my parents, making me an orphan. Living in an orphanage where lunatics would kidnap me and send me underground to my death. I'm serious. I was 4. I was traumatized by the rescuers. Medusa and Snoops are so mean to Penny, calling her a brat, stealing her teddy bear, telling her she's ugly. All of this stuck with me, and I was convinced if my parents ever came home late, I assumed they were dead, and it was one quick stop to the orphanage before I would be stuffed underground by my kidnappers. That's the story. That's the truth. I'm not watching this with my daughter. Hell no. I'm going this one alone, folks. Now I attempt to clear my mind and rewatch Disney's The Rescuers for the first time since that afternoon back in the 1980s. I'm serious, this is happening. We start with a sweet, wonderful World of Disney ad. Sunday nights on CBC, a CBC ad on a Disney VHS. Mouseworks cartoon. Pluto gets the paper. Pluto tries to get the paper, but he's covered in gum. Okay, we're having fun here. Feature presentation. This is the Masterpiece Collection. A dilapidated paddle wheeler we start. Penny sneaks out the front door. Crocodiles smile at each other. She drops a bottle into the water, and then there's a freeze frame. Really nice hand-painted drawings of the bottle's journey with a help note in it. Great intro. This really sets the tone. It's not a good tone, but the tone's been set. Right off the top, we have some bleak-colored stills. It's good. Some mice find the bottle. It says help on it. We're off. Help indeed. The bottle has been found and our movie begins. Mice from all over the world arrive for an emergency meeting of the Rescue Aid Society. As all the important mice enter, we see Bernard, who is dressed like Super Mario sweeping the entrance. This is already a fun premise. I'm trying really hard to watch this objectively as an adult. That's the point of this. They all sing the pledge, and then Hot Mouse enters and everyone's jaw drops. They bring in the bottle. Bernard, who is the handyman, I guess, brings in a comb that he uses as a ladder. He bumbles and all the important mice laugh at him. He's oblivious. Bernard pops the cork and falls into the mouth of the bottle. And come on, Super Mario Brothers. What year was this? They remove the note. The mouse... everyone drools over. His name is Bianca, and she reads what she can of the note. Morningside Orphanage, help. It's a clue. Miss Bianca asks for the assignment. There's a weird moment where I think the main mouse is trying to tell her a man should go instead. Like, that's the condescending tone of what he's saying, but the actual words he's saying is, this is no longer a man's profession, like it was in the old days, which would be pro-female, which it's bizarre. She gets to pick a male partner, and she picks Bernard, which is actually a super feminist moment for 1977, because she clearly makes a point of picking the stupidest, most underqualified man in the group to help her with this. The two head to the orphanage. There's dark streets, there's rain, there's lanterns, the animation is great. So far, Adolph Curtis is really digging this. Bernard has gone from being dressed like Super Mario to being dressed like Paddington Bear. They find the orphanage and a box of Penny's belongings. They wonder where Penny is. She's probably not in Canada, because we don't have pennies. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this as light as possible before this movie tanks us into the abyss, but they meet an old cat named Rufus. They ask about Penny. Flashback, no one adopted Penny. The family that was interested in her adopted a red-headed girl instead, quote, because she was prettier. Sad music. Her little voice, the delivery, and her words themselves cut me deep. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see any of this. Penny is adorable. The cat tells her to keep the faith. Then suddenly, Penny was gone. The police stopped looking for her weeks ago because she's an orphan. The cat mentions Penny once turned down an offer for a free ride from the creeps that run the pawn shop down the street. They are trashy people. We get the bad music, and we see Medusa's pawn shop. Don't make me do this, okay? Usually I love this old grainy animation, but today I hate it. They sneak into the store and they find Penny's reading book. Another clue. The phone rings and we meet Madame Medusa. She's a drunk, she's a wreck of a human being, and I hate this woman. Real hatred for a cartoon character. I'm like seething. This woman is animated child abuse. The call is from a dude who tells her that he hasn't found the diamond and he caught Penny sneaking messages in bottles. Medusa flips out, packs in preparation to board a plane and go deal with the situation herself. Early observation, this movie hates redheads. I think it took Ariel's worldwide appeal to dig redheads out of the animated gutter after this character. The mice hide in her suitcase. Medusa speeds to the airport. There's great animation. Light flares as her car headlights pass by the main camera, and the suitcase and the mice fall out onto the street. They are late getting to the airport, but they get to their own little airport within the main airport. It's Albatross Airlines. Oh, it's this bird. When this movie is giving us happy moments, the bleak colors are kind of nice. The dark yellow and pink skies give the movie a different feel than most other movies. They want to go to Devil's Bayou. There's a tiny little stair car. Oh yeah, Bernard has this weird fascination with the number 13. It's a reoccurring theme throughout this movie. I ignored it at first, but I feel like it's going to be a thing later on. I don't remember that part. But I know I'm probably going to drink like 13 beer to get me through the Penny in a Pail part. Okay, they fly on the bird, and there's an almost creepy deep breathing before he takes off. Gotta give the animators credit again. The shots and perspective of this scene are fantastic. They're amazing. We get more music that's not supposed to be unsettling, but it is unsettling. I swear, this is the song that's playing at the end of Friday the 13th, right before Jason jumps out of the lake and attacks Alice. Unsettling. This whole movie is unsettling. I'm back, sitting crisscross applesauce in my cousin's basement, 2 feet from the old TV, watching this by myself one Saturday afternoon, and I don't want to be there. I don't want to do this. During the long flight, Bianca falls asleep with her head on Bernard's shoulder, and he does the old yawn and reach around. Fade to black, pause, fade up, dilapidated old paddle wheeler is back. This music, I'd forgotten how scary this music is. Like, there's all these ingredients mixing together to make one horrific cake. Penny sneaks away and makes a break for it. Clutching her teddy, she runs into the swamp in the middle of the night. The lights come on. Penny, Penny, answer me! Medusa emerges with a pair of crocodiles. She calls for Snoops. This bumbler emerges and she says, the brat escaped again. She unleashes her crocodiles and tells them to bring Penny back. She hops on this ramshackle swamp skier, but it won't start. Snoops doesn't know what's wrong. She tells him to light the flares. Light up the swamp so I can find her. She's terrifying. Poor timing as the fireworks almost knock the albatross out of the sky. The fireworks also wake up some possums. One is named Luke and he's passed out in the hammock. He wakes up and takes another swig of his moonshine. who are these characters? He sees a fiery albatross and says, "This new batch really packs a wallop." Okay, they all land in the swamp and they're alive. Luke drags Bernard out of the swamp and says, "Here, this is good for what ails you," and pours some of the mystery bottle down his throat. 1977. Medusa is speeding through the swamp and runs over the albatross. Penny is hiding in the bushes. The music makes this so much worse. Medusa is shining a spotlight in the bushes looking for her, and Penny hides behind a rock. I'm going into extra detail here because, again, this just has a bad feel to it. Watching it as an adult, I think it's 50% the music. If it had generic upbeat chase music, I don't think it would seem this depraved, but when you start with a score that already makes you feel anxious and uneasy and full of dread, then add the old grainy animation, this horrible woman looking for a child hiding in a swamp just seems way too unnecessarily dark for a kid's movie. It's really a collision of a bunch of little things. Instead of an animal in this situation, it's a little girl, which really humanizes it. You know, this wouldn't be as bad if it was a little girl peacock or a little girl penguin being chased by like a gorilla, but since we have a human little girl clutching her teddy bear in fear, being hunted by a haggard adult woman, this is not a fun watch. Add the crocodiles that are animated, terrifyingly real. They give a little Flotsam and Jepsen vibe here. The rescuers hear something, and the crocodile's round the corner, one with a teddy bear hanging from its jaws, the other with Penny hanging from its jaws. She's been captured. The rescuers realize it's Penny, and she's being dragged through the swamp at night by a crocodile. Like, I'm sorry, is this just me? Doesn't this feel like 100% shades of no? Look at this still. Imagine making a live-action version of this movie today. Imagine making this identical scene with a real little girl and a realistic CGI crocodile. This is not cool. B&B try to keep up, and the Possum family give them a Firefly-powered speedboat, and now the new music begins, which is like creepy chase music that I haven't heard in 30 years, but it just immediately comes flooding back to me like I heard it yesterday. This is such a trip. I'm not overreacting. I'm experiencing this for real. This movie traumatized me. I'm not in a good place rewatching this. I really can't get past how the music fills me with childhood dread. The rescuers fear they lost Penny, but then through the fog, the two crocodiles emerge, and we get them from the rescuers' perspective. These two giant killing machines carry a little girl and a teddy bear just right by the camera. The alligators lead them to the dilapidated paddle wheeler. What's really weird is that, as an adult, this movie is actually checking all my boxes. It's dark, and I love the animation style. And while the music unearths some repressed childhood mental trauma, it's actually pretty good. The tone is still a little too dark for kids, and I'm not changing my stance on that. I'm already cringing, and we're not even at the bad part yet. The gators carry Penny back to the paddle wheeler. They try for a little levity here. At least there's like indoor light, and she's hanging upside down from the animal's mouth and doesn't act like she's really in any danger, so this softens the blow a little. Penny gets her stuffed animal back and tells it in her little voice, "They're there, Teddy. I won't let them do that to you again. No, don't cry." Snoop sees a common Disney bumbler, and Penny sasses him. Snoop sets off fireworks that spell "Got Girl," which is pretty impressive for 1977, and Madame Medusa returns. Medusa is insane. We get a little backstory here as the rescuers sneak onto the boat and overhear them talking. They took Penny because she's the only one small enough to, quote, squeeze down the black hole, but she still can't find the big diamond. There's already a pile of diamonds Penny apparently found in the black hole, but it's not enough. Medusa wants the devil's eye diamond, and Snoop says, he tells her she didn't leave her in the pit long enough, and he's like, well, the water was rising and the tide was coming in. Medusa's animation is just wrong. She's like an Ursula with no charm or playfulness or redeeming qualities whatsoever. She's all bloaty and saggy, and her skin is gray, and her body movements are all liquidy. It just makes my heart race. You can imagine her just suddenly strangling poor Penny to death on the spot. It doesn't seem that far-fetched in this movie. Like, it could happen any second. She says next low tide, she's going to stick the girl back in the pit and leave her down there until she finds it, and it's as simple as that. The rescuers realize they have to get Penny out of here tonight. Remember that. Remember the sense of urgency. Remember how Penny now has a death sentence waiting for her down in that pit tomorrow. The crocodiles chase the rescuers into a pipe organ, and we get a fun little scene where one croc pushes the keys, forcing Bernard and Bianca to pop out the top pipes while the other tries to grab them. The crocodile feverishly playing the piano is funny. Bernard ends up in Brutus, that's one of the crocodile's mouths, but Medusa's mad about the piano noise and comes and smashes him over the head with her scepter, and Bernard pops out of his mouth. Then she sees a mouth and loses her mind. She grabs a shotgun and starts shooting at anything that moves in the paddle wheeler. The Rescuers, 1977. She keeps firing until she's out of bullets. The mice escape, and Bianca says, "She tried to kill us, that bearable woman." I think she meant unbearable, but whatever. Bianca might be a little rattled after, almost having her head blown off. Bernard wants to bail, but Bianca talks him down. It's like, we gotta rescue Penny. Penny is getting ready for bed, and Medusa calls her into her room. Okay, in animated form, this scene is somehow 10 times bleaker than it reads, and it reads bleak. The delivery and tone of this, way too dark. Here we go. Medusa tries sweet-talking her. You know what would make Auntie Medusa happy? Penny replies in her little voice, finding the diamond? Well, I tried as hard as I could. Honest. Tone. Medusa says, I know, but you have to try harder. Penny replies, if I find the diamond, will you take me back to the orphanage like you promised? Tone. Medusa, why would you want to go back there? Don't you like it here? You have a boat all to yourself. Penny replies, but if I don't go back to the orphanage, I'll never get adopted. Tone. Medusa, what makes you think anyone would want a homely little girl like you? Tone. Penny stands there in front of Medusa, clutching her teddy bear, and tears stream down her face, just standing there, stripped of all dignity and hope as this crazy adult dresses her down. At this point, you're probably thinking, at least it can't get worse. Your optimism tickles me. She slinks off to bed, broken and defeated, humiliated, tucks Teddy, and then remembers she almost forgot to say her prayers. Quote, please bless Rufus and Teddy and all the kids at the orphanage, she names them, and finishes with, and please let someone find my bottle. There's a message in it, because running away isn't working. Amen. Then she can't hold it together anymore and tries to tell Teddy they're going to be alright, but she breaks down into tears. Why was this movie made like this? The mice slip into her room and, okay, let's shine a little sunlight on this already. Please. Bianca tells her not to cry, and they explain they found her bottle and they are here to rescue her. Penny says, didn't you bring someone big with you? Like the police? And the two idiot mice slowly look at each other and, yeah, that would have been a great idea. Bernard finally says, no, just the two of us. They say, we know it's late, but we gotta escape. Tonight, right now, and yes, you do. Penny, who is as sharp as a tack, comes up with an idea to trap the crocodiles in a cage that would allow them to escape. Why does she need these mice again? She's the brains of this outfit. She points out an old elevator and says they can trap them in there. Bianca says she will use her perfume to lure the crocodiles in there, and then they'll lock the door. This is great. Penny does an impersonation of Medusa and goes, Brutus, why did you let that little brat escape again? You're too soft. Then she starts swinging a broom around like a hammer, yelling, whack, whack, whack. Implications in this movie just keep piling and piling. Penny says next they steal her swampmobile. They're worried starting it will wake up Medusa, so Penny comes up with another idea to set off all of Mr. Snoop's fireworks in Medusa's bedroom. And now we're talking. Medusa can burn to death alive. I'm fine with that. That's good. Mice are into it. It's a good plan. Let's get Penny out of there before she goes into the hole tomorrow. They hear Medusa and Snoops, and Penny tells the rescuers she doesn't want to go back into the hole again. They tell Penny to get dressed. They don't have much time. They send the little dragonfly to get the possum family, and that music that gives me immediate anxiety begins again, and a bunch of bats chase the dragonfly as he leaves. We don't need this filler, folks. We need to get Penny the hell off the boat now. Dragonfly gets trapped in a bottle, and the bats swarm, and we pan over to the possum house just mere feet away where they're all whipping each other up to a frenzy to go rescue Penny, except Luke, who's passed out again from the booze. A sleepy turtle says, if the dragonfly don't get here soon to give them the signal, they're going to put that little girl back into the hole. And as soon as he says that, we get a crossfade into the next day. It's the next scene, and Snoops is leading Penny to the hole. What just happened? Oh, the plan, the hope, the light at the end of all this misery and heartbreak. Are you telling me because the dragonfly couldn't get to the possum family in time, Bernard, Bianca, and Penny all just shrugged their shoulders and went to bed? What just happened? This scene that is now before us is traumatizing enough on its own, but to give us 50 minutes of hope before pivoting away and going forward with this horrific moment in movie history is just beyond mean and unfair. But here we are. Here's Penny, who tried to run away, was dragged back to a dilapidated paddle wheeler by a pair of crocodiles, and returned to her insane adult kidnappers. The little girl was told she's going back into the hole tomorrow and that she's ugly and no one will ever adopt her, and all that negative energy was to prop up this scene where everything goes according to the kidnapper's plan. I can't even understand 1% of how or why the script was formatted in this way. I don't even know what to say. Okay, let's do this. Let's get through this. Snoops pulls her up a creepy hill by her wrist and scolds her. Now look here, you brat. You're going down into that hole and you're going to dig until you find that diamond. Bernard and Bianca are in Penny's shirt pocket. Hey, thanks for all that false hope, you stupid mice. You sure you didn't, bring the police like I asked? Guess I should have made my bottle note a little clearer. But Medusa steps in front of her and says, she's gonna find that diamond. Penny says, Teddy doesn't like it down there. Teddy is afraid. Medusa snatches the stuffed animal from Penny and pushes Penny backwards with her boot, where she stumbles towards the bucket and steadies herself against the rocks. Medusa gets right in her face and says, you get down there and find the diamond, or you will never see Teddy again. Penny sniffs back her tears and says, all right, I'll go, and climbs into the bucket. They lower her into a hole in the ground. They put Penny in a bucket and lower her in a hole. They lower her into a hole. They put a child in a bucket and they lower her into a hole in the ground. She has a lantern, and they lower her into the ground. Bianca says, oh, what a dreadful, frightening place. Thanks, Bianca. Glad you came up with a great plan to save me last night. You did nothing. Penny says it used to be a pirate's cave. Bianca asks how she knows that, and Penny says him, and points to a skeleton with a sword through its chest. Bernard finds a bunch of diamonds, and he's like, all right, let's go. Penny says those are small ones, and Medusa doesn't want those. Everything rumbles, and Bernard looks into the abyss and says, what's that? That, Bernard, is the upcoming hell you were supposed to save Penny from. Penny says that's where the water comes in, and she's afraid to go over there. Bernard says, well, if I was a pirate, that's just exactly where I'd hide the devil's eye. Hey, Bernard, shut the up. To his credit, he goes over to check it out first, and there's this giant hole blocking his narrow path, and you can hear these ungodly gurgling and sloshing noises coming from deep inside it. Bianca says she sees something and tiptoes around the hole, and first gush of water shoots up from the hole. The music starts again. Medusa yells from above, what are you doing down there? I'm looking. Well, look faster. Penny holds her lantern high, and a giant glow emits from inside a bleached skull. They found the diamond. It's inside a skull. There's immediate perspective issues, though, because the diamond actually looks quite small inside the skull. It's both mice and the diamond easily fit inside the skull. Whatever. They can't get it out. It won't pass through the hollow eye socket. Kids movie. Another surge of water erupts. Penny tells Medusa it's stuck tight. Medusa tells her to get it out or she will never see daylight again. Penny creeps around the pit as the water splashes up in her face. It fills the pit, then slowly drains. Bernard says, forget the diamond, let's get out of here before we drown. Thanks, buddy. Water erupts and almost sucks Penny into the hole. She cries out to the adults. The water is coming in. Please pull me out. Not until you get the diamond. Bernard tells the child to use the pirate sword. She grabs and tries to pry the diamond out the jaw of the skull as the water sloshes in and rises. They get it free and the water level's rising and rising. It rocks them back and forth. She tries to tread water, but the current sucks her into the hole, and she's gone for like 3 seconds, but then an eruption shoots her back out, and she's panting as she cries out, I've got it, pull me up! And she grabs the bucket at the last second, and they pull her back out into the light. And there it is. As a 4-year-old, I was traumatized. If I thought if something happened to my parents, this was my fate. I'd be an orphan, and I would end up being kidnapped and shoved into a hole to find treasure. And hey, I knew this wasn't real. I knew this was a cartoon, but the scenario seemed legit. I knew what an orphanage was and what an orphan was, and those kids had no parents, so it really wasn't hard to believe. With no one looking out for you, it would be easy for some psychopath to just snatch you in the middle of the night. And even at 4, I knew I didn't have the guts Penny did. That girl was brave and stood up for herself, and this still happened to her. And if that is a homely kid by orphanage standards, I know no one was lining up for this catch, and thus begun this phase of paranoia, where I would consistently worry every time my parents left the house and left me alone with my older sister. If something happened, like a car crash and they never returned, I was convinced it was one quick stop at the orphanage, and then straight to Whole City for this little curly-haired tot. Anyway, Medusa snatches the devil's eye from Penny and cackles. Snoop says, it's worth $1 million, we should cut it in half. She won't even let him hold it. She lets the bucket go and Penny almost falls back into the hole. Brutus picks up Penny and takes her away, and Medusa double-crosses Snoops and tells him he doesn't get anything. We see the dragonfly still in the bottle the next morning, waiting for the bats to leave so he can escape. A true hero. A little girl is traumatized for life because you couldn't outrun some bats. Take a big old dragonfly bow, you idiot. He's 20 feet from the possum house. After all that, he just makes a break for it anyways and makes it to the chimney of the house. Just fine. Yeah. Couldn't have done that last night, hey, when there was a big plan to keep Penny out of the hole. This movie. The dragonfly rounds the troops up and they charge out of their house 12 hours later towards the paddle wheeler. Everyone is a bumbler here, and they seem to be trying hard to add some levity to help balance out the horrible image of severe child abuse we just endured. We get a turtle on his back trying to paddle itself down the creek while banjo music plays. They charge the boat, where Medusa has both Snoops and Penny pinned to the wall with a shotgun pointed at their heads. No. Let's just Medusa has the teddy, and Penny says she promises to give it back. Medusa puts her boot back up on the child's chest, and we get this shot from Penny's perspective. She says the bear is coming with her. The rescuers make a tripwire across the bottom of the doorway, and Medusa falls over it, and her shotgun goes off. Teddy falls from her clutches, and we see the diamond stuffed inside the bear that she was trying to take for herself. Banjo music continues as Penny grabs the bear, and Snoops and Medusa wrestle on the floor. The possum and the turtle folk show up, and they execute the plan finally. They trap the crocodile in the elevator as Penny starts Medusa's swamp skier thing. I should note that while all this is happening, gunshots are going off and bullet holes are exploding around every character on the boat. An owl sticks a stick of dynamite in the barrel of the shotgun and it explodes in Medusa's face. The animals light all the fireworks in the boat, and that's a really neat visual. Penny gets the swamp skier going and takes off, but Medusa grabs a rope and is being dragged behind the boat, where she ends up using the two crocodiles as water skis, and see, this is fun. This is how the whole movie should be. This is actually a pretty rewarding third act, to be honest. I'm having a good time now. This part is really well done. Penny takes a sharp turn and sends Medusa face first into a pole, and it's very satisfying. They all escape. We get one last shot of Medusa hanging from the pole, shaking her fist at them against a blood red and yellow sky. Drag this thing back into the light and further just wrap it up. On TV, a news anchor says, and because of a courageous little girl named Penny, the world's largest diamond, the Devil's Eye, is now in the Smithsonian Institute, and today her dream came true as she's being adopted, where her new mom and dad can look forward to many years of night terrors, violent outbursts, crying in the shower, severe PTSD, and years of therapy. The rest of the orphans sing her a song and everyone is happy. Bernard uses this moment to move in on Bianca, but she pretends she doesn't understand what he's doing and deflects it. Penny tells the reporter that mice helped her escape and says hi to them on TV. The Firefly returns, and there's another call for help. Bernard and Bianca are off on another mission, and the camera pans up to the calendar, and it's Friday the 13th. We end with them back on Albatross Airlines as the bird struggles to fly through a snowstorm. The Rescuers, ladies and gentlemen. I swear I've never researched this movie in any way, so let's take a couple minutes and see what the old internet has to say about The Rescuers. People have got to be, Okay, there's talk about using Cruella de Vil instead of introducing the new Medusa character, but come on. Not even Cruella de Vil would try to kill children with a shotgun. Apparently, when the Albatross airline takes off, the first time there's a single frame of a picture of a topless woman in one of the windows. It went out on the original VHS release, and millions of copies were immediately recalled. I don't know. You gotta be a pretty sad and broken individual to take the time to go frame by frame just hoping to see a tiny picture of a topless woman in this cartoon. But past all that, no, there's no online swell of children who were disturbed by this movie, and I don't know what to do with that information. Was it just me? Am I the only child in the world who thought adults shoving a kid in a hole until she almost drowned and tried to kill her with a shotgun was just a little questionable for a kid's cartoon? I can't find anything. No one else had a problem with this. In a new, updated website where parents rate movies by current day standards, online discussion is very common. Parents seem to agree that this is more of a 9 and up movie, and everyone seems to enjoy The Rescuers, and rates it pretty high in the Disney universe. Let's put a bow on this. The whole point of this is judging these movies as an adult. And as an adult, yeah, I like this movie. If I could separate it, it's still way too dark for young children. The dark implications between Penny and the adults is not acceptable by today's standards by any means. Penny, though, is kind of badass. She would whip Annie's ass. This movie had a lot going for it, but they just needed some dialogue rewrites. Major dialogue rewrites. If they were falsely sweet to her face, then mean to her behind her back, these scenes would have been tolerable, but telling a child to her face she's ugly, then watching her cry is just... No one wants to see that, Disney. Were mistakes made? Yes. Is this still a classic for the older kids who enjoyed, Black Cauldron? Absolutely. Wow. 30 years.
That's what I think about.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not